about routing audio now. Now this is a continuation from the previous lesson, which showed about how to set up all these clips, and it talked a little bit about some refresher and some MIDI stuff, and dove mostly into like clips and triggering clips and stuff like that. Now, whenever we've got some clips to trigger here, like these that we've set up here with our bongos, we can see that these are they're triggering automatically. They're doing their thing. They're triggering automatically, and these follow actions are going on. And we can see the follow actions by the little striped play buttons here. That means it's got a follow action going. One of the things about this, though, especially the way I have these follow actions set up, is that they are going to trigger randomly. So it's going to be a random setting every single time it plays. And this is fine if you want it to be random all the time. But what if it plays some kind of like combination of clips that you really like, and you want to have that kind of play often? Well, that's what we're going to do now. We're going to set up how to do that using audio recording. Okay, and we're going to do this. We're going to do it for a couple of different things here. So for this one here, what I want to do is I want to set up a new track. I'm going to use Command T, and I'm going to go in here, and I have two ways I can do this. I can either send the audio to my new track I just made, or I can record the audio from this track that we're playing. So let's go ahead and set this with a name. We're going to call this a bongo loop bounce. And you notice I'm abbreviating everything: bongo loop LP, bounce BNC. And I'm going to go down here to the bottom, and we're going to say, okay, audio from or audio to on this one here. Let's go ahead and start it with doing audio to. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to set this audio to go to my bongo loop bounce track. Once I do that, we can see it brings up this monitor button here. If I hit play, we can no longer hear this. Let me put this back real quick to our master output. We can hear it, but if I do this, we can no longer hear it. And the way we can get to hear it is we have to turn this monitor to on, which is in. Now we can hear it. Or we can set it to auto, and when we hit the record button, we can hear it. So no record button means I'm not going to hear it. Record button means I'm going to hear it. Now, one thing about this is you may notice that Ableton Live allows you to record Arma track while it's playing. Ableton Live does not have any holdups like Live well, actually Logic is the same way as Ableton, but like Logic or like Pro Tools rather. Pro Tools, remember, if you're playing, you can't record Arma track while you're playing. Ableton Live, you can record Arma track while you're playing. It's no problem at all. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set the record button here. Audio from is set to nothing. Audio to is set to loop bounce. This is going to be after this fader right here, or also after any kind of effects that I've got. Let me go ahead and throw an effect on here just so we can hear something with an effect. We'll do a redux here. This is not an effect I would normally use, but it'll be easy to hear. Okay, there we go. It has like a little computery sound to it, I guess. And everything we're playing right now is going to be recorded with this effect. So all I have to do now that we can hear it, we can see it's triggering stuff over here. So I'm just going to go in here. Okay, I'm going to hit record. And I'm going to let this play for a little bit. I'm going to stop it. Now, I'm going to stop these from playing over here on the left, and we can hit play on this. And it's going to be that loop that we just had. And there you go. I can adjust the gain so it's a little bit louder. And you can see that some of these are doing some kind of weird things. They're a little bit off here. I'm not really sure why. Oh, I know why they're off. It's because some of these, hold on, let's fix this. Some of these square ones I hadn't fixed up with these square ones here. Let's fix these with this, there we go, quantize. I'm going to fix the quantizing here. Boom. I'm just quantizing these in. There we go, which will help with any kind of weird gap things. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my transients. There we go. Yeah, fixing these. Cool. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I'm going to go through with all of these square ones, holding down Shift to click them. I'm going to change the transients so it's like this. There we go. That should make things sound a little bit better as far as for recording these. Okay, so I've got these in here, recorded them. Now let's do this a different way. What we're going to do now is instead of recording it audio to, we're going to record audio from, which I actually prefer, and I'm going to show you why. So the audio to, I'm going to leave it going to my master. So we can hear it. Here, let's play. Cool, okay, that sounds pretty good there. Audio to master, we're hearing it with the effect on it, everything. Now, what we're going to do is on the track we're going to record onto, we're going to grab audio from this original bongo track. So I go over here and I say audio from bongo. Boom. Now, we've got our monitor comes in here. It doesn't matter, I'm going to leave it off because now we don't need to hear it because we're hearing it from this one over here. We don't need to listen to it because there's no cables that could break. There's nothing that could really go wrong with this. So you don't need to worry about listening to it when you're just recording internally within a DAW. It should be fine. There's no reason why it shouldn't sound exactly like what you're listening to from this one over here. But what we'll notice now is that we have these three options here. We have pre-effects, post-effects, and post-mixer. So if I want to record it before, if I want to record the clean sound only so I can put my own effects on it later, we can do pre-effect. So any effect that I'm hearing is not going to be recorded in. Let's go ahead and listen, or let's record and listen. Okay, cool. So I recorded that for 2 bars. So let's go ahead and stop these and let's listen to this one here. It no longer has that effect on it, which is pretty cool. Now, it's also a loop, and this loop is gonna play that's exact same what we just recorded, which is pretty cool because it's cool to have it be random, but the problem is that it's always gonna be random. And if there's like a section that sounds really cool, you're not gonna have that section ever again. It's not gonna work out. Probably not gonna work out. So I like to record it like this for like about a minute or 30 seconds, like several iterations of it. Not just like 8 bars, because 8 bars is going to get boring for our audience. We want to record like 16 bars or 32 bars, like I said, 30 seconds or a minute. And we can have stuff to choose from in there that we can put together again later. So let's go ahead and do that again. But this time let's go post effects. So post effects right here. And let's go ahead and hit play. Wait, hold on a second. Let's hit play on this one over here. There we go. Now let's go ahead and hit record. And you hear how it kind of was playing a loop there kind of by itself. It was repeating the same thing several times, which was kind of weird. So that's why it's good to record a bunch of this. Now, as it's recording, we can see what bar we're actually on. 15, 16. So now, there we go. And this is showing us it's 16 bars of that. And we can see over here what's actually happening with it. So we're recording a nice, good section of this. And we're going to go ahead and stop it there. And now if I go back and listen to this one, okay, we can see, and I could go into this and I could grab any, like, let's say 8 bars or whatever that I want. So let's set the length to 8 bars long. Let's set the length to 4 bars actually. 4 bars, there we go, boom. And I can use what I showed y'all earlier and scroll through these. Let's listen to this. And you can see, okay, cool, this one's pretty good. It's a nice little loop for us, okay? And we can grab different parts of this that we like. Let's grab this because it's moving it around. The follow action is set for 8 eighth notes. And so we can grab a couple bars and it's going to sound pretty cool, but we have a lot to choose from here. But I want to point out a couple things. One, when we were listening to it as it was recording, the volume was really low because we have what we're listening to is over here on the left-hand side, but I have it set for post effects. Post effects is taking the audio from before the fader here, before the fader right here, okay? So it's going through the effects, but it's not hitting this fader. It's getting it straight over into here. So our level is going to be a lot louder on this track that we just recorded, which is pretty good. I like to have a nice loud amount of headroom so I can work with the files a little bit better. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like drawn out here. That's right here, over here, and this shows us where it's gonna get it from. So the audio from monitor set to in, drum group. Let's see here, boop boop boop, subgrouping. Oh, this is for subgrouping stuff. Actually, let's go look at the one from recording audio setup, audio warping, setup intro. Hold on, let me go into my notes here. Audio recording. This one here shows us a good picture of it. This is the notes from the recording from yesterday. So this shows us a good little setup here. Right there, there we go. So this one here is, here's our instrument pre-effects, the plugin. If this is like if you have like an instrument plugin on here, but same goes if this is audio, like our bongo loops here. Pre-effects comes before the effects, post-effects comes from after the effects, and post-mixer comes after the fader. So if you want to make sure you're getting a nice hot signal, no matter what your mix is, you want to use post-effects. If you don't want the effects at all, you just want the raw audio, you're going to use pre-effects. This is the same for any kind of setting, any kind of setup. It's not just for Ableton Live, also for any kind of thing that works like this. But most of the time, I use post effects because I want to capture the effect that I've got going on. So most of the time, I will use post effects for this stuff. Now, post mixer is basically the same as post effects, but this is going to make a difference in things. So let's go ahead and hit play on this, and I'm gonna record it. The thing is, if I turn the fader down here, you can see we're no longer recording anything because we just turned that fader down. Let me go ahead and turn off the effect that's on here, because that effect's starting to drive me nuts. And if I turn it down, you can hear it's going quiet. It's going silent over there. And you can see it's going silent on the recording. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. We can see where I turned the level down right there. And again, right over here. And that's something you don't really want. You don't want to have this level affecting your recording here. So that's why I highly recommend that you use post effects or pre-effects, whichever one you want. I usually use post effects though. So that's that there. That's the routing, so you can record audio from track to track, just kind of making sure that we understand that completely. We have it in here again, okay? It's very similar to what, we did talk about this a little bit yesterday when we were talking about recording audio, but I just want to go over it one more time for you. Okay, now let's say that we're recording all of our drums, or let's say we're getting, here, let's do... Go ahead and okay, cool. So let's go ahead and let's say these drums here, not the bongos, but all these other ones. We want to record those. Actually, maybe just the kick and the snare. Let's just do the kick and the snare. Let's record these kick and snare with a little bit of effects on them. Because right now it's really dry and boring, but let's run it through some stuff to give it a little bit more push, a little more oomph to it, okay? let's go ahead and throw a little reverb on it. And again, reverb is not something I would stick directly on a track, but I do want to show you a couple of ways to do this. So we're going to go ahead and grab the hybrid reverb here and throw it directly on. And let's grab a little preset here. A little bit too long there. Huh. Okay, we're going to change this impulse response here to made for drums. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that sounds pretty cool there. Now let's go ahead and run this through this new effect I got from Slate. Let's see, where is it in here? OTT. It's basically, is it over here? Yeah, the MOTT. So this one here is basically like the OTT setting in Ableton Live's multiband dynamics. It's weird that they made a plugin to emulate a plugin that comes with another piece of software, like it comes with another DAW. It comes with a DAW, but it's pretty cool because it allows you to use, if you use Pro Tools or Logic, it allows you to use this kind of pretty cool plugin setting from Ableton Live in a different DAW. So we're going to use this, and I'm going to go ahead and just throw on here, whenever I'm doing any kind of effects that I'm not sure what they're going to end up sounding like, I throw a limiter on the end to make sure that I'm not going to kill myself, especially when I'm using headphones. I'm going to put the ceiling down to 10. There we go. And just by clicking comes on these quick set buttons, you can hear it's changing the sound a lot. But we also have presets in here. Right over here, these presets. Let's go ahead and put some drums on here. Okay. It's pretty cool sounding. Now, really what I'm looking for is something to kind of go in the background of this, and that's why I want to bounce it down and turn it into audio that I can mix in with this other stuff. So let's go ahead and just listen to some more presets here. Let's go to the effects to see what this sounds like. Yeah, I kind of like that there. Now, let me just explain what's going on here. I put the reverb on here so I have some tail of the drums for this effect to kind of manipulate. Without the reverb here, it sounds cool, it should, but it doesn't have any kind of body to it really. And this reverb allows it to have more kind of vibe because the reverb's doing something to the drums. So, like I said, normally I wouldn't put the reverb directly on the track, but this time, because I'm not going for a reverb sound ultimately in my head. I'm not thinking reverb, I'm thinking weird or something here. And without that, these drums are so short that this sounds okay, but it's not as interesting as this. All right. So now what we want to do is we want to record this sound because I want to layer this in with the other drums. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new audio track here. We're going to call this one Kit 707 FX Bounce. And I'm going to grab my audio from the Kit 707. I'm going to grab it from Post Effects. And I hit the record arm button. And now I'm just going to do this. I'm going to hit record. And I'm going to record the whole loop. So you can see the loop is over here. I'm going to record the whole loop. I'm going to hit the stop button right here. And it's going to stop recording on the downbeat. Okay. So now that I've got that recorded, I'm going to turn off all my little effects here. I'm going to turn these all off so we have the dry sound again. There's our dry sound. Now I've got this affected sound here in order to mix with the original sound. I'm going to just pull it down. So we have a little bit of it in there, but we don't have the whole thing. So now you get a little bit of that flavor in there without overdoing it. And we can mix it in like that. Okay. So let's just show that one more time here. I got the audio from, I made the new track. I got the audio from, and I set it up right there like that. So here's my settings for you. Kit 707, post effects, monitor off because I don't need to hear it because I'm hearing it from over here. Now this level wouldn't matter. Let's go ahead and record that one more time. This level won't matter at all because it's not recording this level. So let's just show you that. You can see it's still recording right over there. Right? If I go ahead and we play it, if we look at it, first of all, you can see the level didn't come down at all. Right? So if I go ahead and solo this out, it didn't fade up and down. It didn't fade up and down or anything. It just recorded it. Okay? So there we go. Turn these off. There we go. There we go. Cool. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. And when we have everything playing here, you can hear that little effect that I put on the drums gives a little bit of like kind of weight there. Now, one of the things we are noticing though, and we'd have to mess with that and make sure that it's not going to do that in real life, is we'd have to make sure that it's not phasing because it is causing some kind of phasing issues in there. I can hear it in the background. So here's another way to kind of do this is instead of using this for recording stuff, instead of using it as our bounce, we can use this as our effects. And I'm going to take all my effects that I just made. I'm going to drag them over here onto this track right here. Now we're going to use this as kind of an aux channel. And this is a really important thing in Ableton Live, is that Ableton Live doesn't have aux channels the way that Pro Tools has aux channels or Logic has aux channels. So if I want to do some kind of parallel effects like what I want to do right now, I want to keep the dry signal and I also want to do some parallel effects here. I have to put them onto an audio track. And the audio track, let's turn this one off here. On the audio track, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my set this to post mixer, so this will affect the level going into here. And I'm going to set my monitor to in. Okay, so if I'm not recording, if I'm using it as an audio, as an effect, like an aux channel, I want to make sure my audio from says the channel I'm getting it from, and then my setting here says post mixer because I'm not recording it. So when I turn this up and down, let's just solo this out. You can hear that on my effects going on. Okay. Now if I turn this down, both of those go away. There we go. Cool. And now I can balance the amount of effect by adjusting the level right there. I'm going to go ahead and take off some of my low end on this the second track here. And I'm not using the limiter at all for it. I'm going to go ahead and put this on. Cool. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to take out this low end because the low end's not the important part of this effect. There we go. Cool. Yeah. If I want to boost it up a little bit to get it like kind of crunching through, you can use this limiter for that. Cool. That sounds pretty cool. Nice. Oops. And now you can hear that kind of effect that's going on in there. It's underneath everything, but you can hear it. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm gonna grab, let's see here. Let's grab a loop from these bongos here. Let's stop this one from playing. I'm gonna start it like this. And, hold on. That's not what I wanted to do. I want to start it here. There we go. Cool. All right. That's a nice little 4-bar loop. Okay. And I just used everything we've been talking about so far. We talked about in the last, the clips lesson. We talked about our loop points here. So I just kept my loop at 4 bars, and I just moved the start point here to start it from a different place. So instead of starting like this, listen to these bongos here. Let's solo them out. Okay. Instead of doing that, I started from right here. Cool. Okay. And so it gives us a little bit of a different vibe. Okay. Cool. All right. So now let's talk about subgrouping these drums together. There's a couple of different ways to subgroup the drums. And the way I like to do it, I actually use a combination of different things. I'll use the Command G method, which is just you take the tracks, you highlight all the tracks, and you hit Command G, and now you've got a group. And a lot of people use this. There's nothing really wrong with it, but there are a couple limitations with this that I've discovered that I'm not a huge fan of those limitations. First of all, one of the main limitations is that you cannot send your reverb into this group. So the reverb is just kind of hanging out by itself, and you can't send it into that group. Now, if you have just a drum kit here, there are, with drum racks, which we're going to talk about in another lesson, drum racks do have a reverb send thing that you can do. But we're not talking about drum racks. We're talking about a whole bunch of different drum tracks. We're using audio, we're using MIDI, we're using all these different things. So we're not talking about that. Let me just go ahead and grab all these that are playing right now and put them on their own little scene down here, so everything will play. And I'm also going to take these and have it so just the drums play. So this one's called drums, and this one is all. And the reason why I put them down here so I'm not triggering these bongos up here. Let me also make sure these are the right color. Awesome. Okay, so now let's see. Where was I? Okay, so these are all subgrouped together, which is fine, like this, but I can't put the room in here. So if I send stuff to the room, watch what happens. Let's go ahead and... And I'm going heavy-handed on my reverb so you can hear it, okay? So we're going really hard on the reverb right now. And I'm going to go ahead and pull these up. Okay, so that's great, but now listen to what happens. If I go ahead and turn my drums down in the mix, watch. Oh, they changed it? Interesting. Huh. It's different now. Okay, never mind. Wow. It's now sending it over to that reverb. And I mean, did it always do that? I don't know. I feel like it didn't. But still, okay. But my argument still stands, even though it's sending it over differently than I feel like I remembered it doing. I'm not sure. Now my brain is messing with me. But the reverb is not being compressed with these. So if I throw a compression on these drums, for example, one of my favorite setups for my groups is this drum group here, drum group Ableton. And this one has a nice little setting of things. We're going to talk about grouping your effects and stuff together another time. So this here setup is a nice little setup for my drums. Okay, so this is going to give my drums a nice punch, super over the top kind of drum sound, super aggressive drum sound. And so if I'm going for that really aggressive drum sound, this is like a drum, this is like my drum group for like if I'm doing like tech house or something where I may need my drums to be really kind of aggressive. I'm going to use this setup here. There we go. Make some adjustments, but that reverb's not going into here. So it's just fine for certain things, but I don't love to use this on everything as a whole. So let me go ahead and ungroup those. Whoops. How do I ungroup? Right click, ungroup, Command Shift G. There we go. Boom. So what I'm going to do here is instead of grouping them like that, I'm going to group them together in what I would consider a more old school way or non-Ableton way, however you want to say it. But this is something that actually goes across the board for all the different DAWs. It's how you would group stuff in Logic, Pro Tools, whatever. I will say though that now they all do have the grouping ability like what we just did with Ableton Live. I don't really use it that much in the other DAWs just because I'm not used to it so much. But let me show you how to do this in Ableton Live. First thing first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up an audio track and call it drum group. And I'm going to have all of these different drums go to this drum group right here. Okay, so I'm going to highlight all of these with my shift key held down. And I'm going to go down here and I'm going to go to where it says Master Audio 2. And I'm going to select that track I just made called drum group. I select it. Now this one over here goes over here to that. And I'm going to just turn my monitor set to in, and there we go. And now this Valhalla Room, I'm also going to send over here to the drum group, like that. And now everything turns down, so you can hear it, which is what happened before. But now, if I put my track on here like this, I'll turn that down, sorry. And I make some adjustments here. Okay. Now, my reverb is going in there, and I can squash my reverb down at the same time, where everything is being compressed together. And so that's why I like to use it like that. And usually what I'm doing is kind of a combination of things. So for example, I've got all these, I've got these hi-hats and stuff like this going on here. So what I might do is I might set my hi-hats, all these here, to actually subgroup these together like this. And everything's like a mixture of like a hodgepodge of different ways of doing things. But in here I might have this, and I might call this one my top group, like that. And maybe tie in my top group to the kick drum on here, something like that. So the kick drum is ducking these out. Especially for house music and techno and stuff like that, I want my top loops to be ducked with the kick drum to kind of like breathe them a little bit, to give them some kind of energy. And so we could do that right here. So my drum groups are always kind of doing different things. So like these here they're not going to go to the top group anymore. They're going to go to the drum group, the top group here, sorry. And then this top group will go to the drum group over here. And then I can add stuff, I can add effects into here, side chains, stuff like that, to control just these groups of instruments right here, okay? So there's a lot of different things you can do with this, and the more you understand, like I'm not gonna keep talking about that because it's definitely more of an advanced thing that we could devote a whole lesson onto. But as we go through this, just knowing how your routing works is really important. So in here, with our return effect over here, we can see the audio 2, we can set it to the master or we can set it to our drum group track that we've got right over here. Okay, so all these are my drums right here. And then this Valhalla Room, a little bit of reverb, is going into this track over here as well. Unfortunately for me, I can't put this return over here and this side over here. I really like for my return tracks to be over here with my other tracks. That's how I always do it in Pro Tools when I'm doing like audio effects and aux channels and stuff like that. I put them with all my other tracks, but in live you can't do that. So let's go ahead and hit play. There we go. Awesome. So now we've got this little thing going on here. I have seen some people use their return tracks as subgrouping tracks. I've seen people do that in Ableton Live. I don't really recommend that you do that. I would recommend keeping the return tracks for your effects only and not doing subgrouping into them, because the way to set it up is kind of weird. I have seen a couple people do that. I'm not even going to explain how to set that up because there's just no real reason to. So that's how we do subgrouping, though. We just take your track, you make a new audio track, you set the input to no input here. Mine is set to that by default, and then you change the monitor to in, and you set all your other tracks that you want to go to it. You set it to that track's name, drum group here, and then you're good to go. Then you can put any kind of like grouping effects or whatever you want to put on there. So we got that there, drum group, bass, plucks here. So now let's go ahead and lay this out as a kind of song. Let's do it here. So let's go ahead and start with the drums here. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy these over into this view, to our arrangement view. I'm going to hit Command, where are we? Oh, right here, sorry. Boom, there we go. And you can see once I copy and paste them in, they show up in here, and I'm just going to grab them and loop them out. This is a way to lay out stuff that's different from recording them in. And how you want to do it. If you like recording it in, that's fine, but this is just a different way to do it. And getting used to this is a little bit weird. Let me go ahead and show you what I'm actually doing. I'm going to go ahead and close that one down. And what I'm doing here is, if I click on it and I drag it out, it's going to be that loop. As long as I don't edit it, it's not going to be any different. It's going to be always that loop there. So I can just drag this out and there's that loop. If I highlight several of these, it will allow me to drag them out as well. So if we hit play right here, let's play. Cool. Okay, so we got that one there. Let's get this cowbell going on like this. All right, so set the levels in these a little bit differently. Now, we can hear them starting and stopping and stuff like that. What we're going to do though is if I have this bongo loop and I pull both of these, if I highlight them like this, check this out, they don't both move. You can see they're both selected, they're both highlighted, but they don't both move. What I can do, and this is a weird concept, but this is how Ableton Live works, is I drag it over here. If I'm just grabbing this bongo loop down here on the bottom, it's not going to move the top one at all. What I can do is I let go, and then I re-click it, and now it grabs the top one. Okay, so now that they're both selected and they're both the same length, it will grab both of them. But if they're different lengths, it won't grab both of them. So for example, let's grab this one, make this one this long, and this one's this long, and this one is this long. And this is a really weird concept. It took me a while to really get used to it, but once you do, it does help with your kind of layout abilities. So I've got these all three here. If I grab this top one here, they're not all going to move with it. Just the top one moves. If I want to pick up this second one here, I have to mouse over it and let go of the mouse and re-grab it again and move it. And I can do the same thing with all these. And now they're all going to move together. But I have to actually let go of the mouse and re-click it, move it over, let go, re-click, move it over, let go, re-click. Again, once you get used to it, it's cool, but you have to kind of get used to it. So I can hold Shift, grab it, and now I can do this, and I can drag it over here like this, drag it over here for 32 bars, boom. Cool, okay? So I got that there. Let's go ahead and get a little like this. Cool, I'm also gonna get rid of, there's a lot of low energy in there with these bongos. I want to kind of just shave that off a little bit. There we go. Is it that one or is it this one? Hold on, let's see. Oh yeah, this one has like a kick in there. There you go. You always want to make sure you clean the stuff up like that, because it's not really adding anything to it, but you don't want to clean it too much or else things get to sound kind of sterile. Here, let's that one's fine. There we go. Yeah, a little bit in there, but not too much. Cool. All right, there we go. And we're gonna grab our our keyboard line over here. Let's grab, which one should we grab? Double click to show it. And we don't need to see any of this stuff down here. Let's see. What do we got going on? Let's see here. Let's listen to. Yeah, cool. So these are all related to each other. Let's grab the beginning of this one here. And what I'll do is I'll record this in by playing. Let's see if we're starting at the beginning. Good. So I'm going to go over here. Yeah, let's record this in right here. Make sure I don't have record armed on any of my tracks. That's good. Okay, cool. So if I don't have record arm on any of my tracks, it's not going to record weird blank clips anywhere. So I've got this set here. I'm going to hit play. And now, awesome, great. So record a little bit of that in there, and it recorded this in. I'm going to hit F10 to show those tracks up, so they actually play from this view here. And let's go ahead and drag this down like this. So when I click on them, I can see what's inside, or I can just kind of zoom in. I can see the notes that are in here. Let's delete this one. I don't need to actually see what's going on down there. So we got that, cool. My drums come in right here. I'm going to put a marker right there. drums. Cool. All right, we got this. Boom, 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 17. Okay, now if I want to like latch these together so these become a full clip, I can just hit, select them all with Shift and hit Command J, and it's going to put them together in a loop. And we'll call this one Melody 1, and we'll call this one Melody 2. There's one here I didn't love. Let's move this way. Hold on. Let's use this one here. Grab that one. Boom. See what that sounds like. That's the same one. Let's use this one maybe, or this one. Yeah, that one. I'm holding down Option and dragging it over. And then this here will go over like this. There's nothing in there. Oh, right, because that's fine. And then let's grab this one, I guess. Command C to copy, Command V to paste. All right, so let's link all these together. Command J. We'll call this one Melody 2. Cool, so now we have a couple of those, and we'll bring in the bass with that one as well and drag it over. There we go, cool. So now I got this in here. If I want to just drag both of these out, I could do that. Or, oops, I need to turn my loop on for this one here because the loop's not on. Whenever you Command J something, it doesn't actually turn the loop on. So that's one way to do it. I can also do this, go back and forth between these like that. And we're a little bit too far. There we go. Drag these over to there. There we go. And this bass line, we'll just kind of keep that going. Cool. So now, awesome. It sounds pretty good. We should put some cymbal smashes or something in here, things like that, but I'm not going to worry about it for right now. If I was really working on this for real, then I would add in some other stuff in there. But for now, all I want to do is get this going over here to the end. Yep. And I'm going to put in another clip here, another marker. Right click up here, call it end, boom. Just make sure. Awesome. Okay, that sounds pretty good. There's a little weird click on the end here. I'm going to use a fade to get rid of that. And then what we'll do is grab this and see, what is this note here on the beginning? I'm just going to cut this. So when I cut it, put that back to an F. There we go. Let's put it down an octave. There we go. Down another octave. Right there. Yeah, cool. So we got that there, and when you cut it, it becomes a new fresh clip. Remember, we did talk about this the other day. When you cut it, it does become a new fresh clip, and so any changes I make to it are not going to affect any of the other clips. All right, so now we're ready to bounce this out. So I've put a marker here at the end. We could put a marker here at the beginning. There we go. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to highlight, I'm going to highlight these between these two right here. Now this is where I wish that Ableton Live had a kind of a list of all your locators, because if you had a list of your locators, you could just like click on it like in Pro Tools or Logic, click on it, click on the top one, hold down Shift, click the bottom one, and this part would be much easier every time you want to bounce it out. But what I have to do now is I actually have to highlight the section I want to bounce, and what I do to make my life a little bit easier is I hit Command L so it loops. Now you don't have to keep the loop on. Really what I'm doing is I'm just setting up those markers there, the kind of the in-out markers here. And again, you don't have to do that part. You can just highlight this, but the reason why I do this is because if I'm bouncing it several times, I can just click on this and I know it is everything I want to bounce out, because the way Ableton Live bounces is it bounces the length by whatever you've selected on your track there. So by setting up my my locators and then setting up my loop length, I can just click on this top bar up here and I know it's going to be correct. So once I've done that, I'm going to bounce it out, which is Command-Shift-R. Command-Shift-R is over here. Here, let me cancel this. Command-Shift-R is over here under File, Render, Live Set, or Export. Here, Export there, boom. It says Export there. It says, oh, it says Export here. Cool. It used to say Render in different places, I guess. They fixed that, which is good. And now, it's Command-Shift-R, though, is the shortcut. So what do I want to render out? Well, I want to render this here, the master. There's my master. I want to render that. How long is it going to be? 42 bars. Again, if you set it up the way I set it up, you shouldn't have a problem with this. Down here is I'm going to render as a loop. That's if you're importing it. If it's a loop, if you're doing like samples and stuff like that, rendering it as a loop is a really good idea because it will put the like any kind of tails of your effects. It'll put those in there. Convert to mono. I never really use this. You can always, you know, separate out later if you want to in Pro Tools. If you're bringing stuff into Pro Tools, you can separate it in Pro Tools. But convert to mono is good for like bass sounds and like low things, like low basses, 808s, kicks and stuff like that. But for the most part, you can just leave that alone. Normalize. This is good for drum hits, but not much else. Don't use it for normal stuff. And create analysis file. You could do this if you want to. It's just going to make it quicker if you're bringing stuff back into Ableton Live later, but I don't really ever click this one either. Sample rate 44.1. If you're doing for movies, digital video 48. The encoding here down here, PCM is your WAV or AIF. It can also do FLAC. So if you want to bounce stuff out as a FLAC file, fully lossless, then you could do that as well, but I just usually use WAV files. You can do the bit depth here, 16, 24, 32. Again, 24 is the one you want to use. Dither, don't do dither. If you don't know what dither is, don't do dither. If you are a mastering engineer and you know what dither is, then great, use dither. But I personally don't ever use dither. So MP3 encoding, this is going to record it. This is going to encode it at a constant bit rate 320 MP3. There's no options for this. It's just on or off. I always like to bounce out MP3s, so I turn this on. It's a good MP3 encoder. And then video, if you have video in your session and you want to bounce out the video part. Side note, you can use Ableton Live as a really basic video editor, which is kind of cool. Super basic though. It's not the one to use. iMovie's better. But if you wanted to do some video warping to warp video to go with the sound, it's kind of cool. You can do that in Ableton Live, but we're not really going to talk about it. Once I've got these settings set up, I hit export and it asks me, where do I want to put this? Now, I don't have this. There's no session here. So let me go ahead and hit save on this to make a session. And Ableton Teaching, we'll call this one 2111 A1, and we'll call it Ableton. Well, these are all Ableton. What was this? Oh, audio routing and export. There we go. Save. Boom. Okay. So now I'm going to go back and do this. Once I set it up, it should be good. We're good to go. Hit export. It's going to ask me where I want to put it. I'm not going to put it in my samples folder. I'm going to put it over here in the one I just made. Here we go. Call it export. Yeah, there we go. Hit save. Now it's going to bounce it out. It bounces it out in non-real time. If you want to force it to do a bounce in real time, you can throw an external instrument or an external audio like a effect on there and set it to on and set it to like nothing, I guess. And it'll force it to do it in real time. If you want to do it in real time, there is a way to do that, but I never do that. So there we go. Now we got this. Let's go into our Ableton, where are you? Date, added, date, modified. Where'd you go? Ableton. There we go, teaching projects, routing, and there it is. So now I can hit play on this, and it will, you know, I guess y'all can hear that. You cannot hear that. Okay. So anyway, that's how you can export stuff in Ableton Live. Trust me, it worked. No problems there. And I think that brings us to the end of this. That's about an hour long, which is pretty good. Let me go ahead and stop this recording.